My name's Corundumcore, and this is my submission video for Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle, DKA Any %. So, DKA stands for Donkey Kong Adventure, which is the DLC for the game that came out about 9 months after initial release. It's got a lot of things that are unique to the DLC that aren't in the main game, that make the speedrun a lot more enjoyable. That makes the speedrun a lot more enjoyable than the main game speedrun. So let's go ahead and get started. So, Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle is kind of like an XCOM Lite. It's a tactical shooter, but it focuses more on movement rather than necessary ranged weapon damage. And you'll see what I mean by that as we continue on with the run, but there's definitely more of a focus on movement based off of the fact that it's a Mario IP. You've got things that are jumping around, you've got pipes to warp through, things like that. Now, the Donkey Kong Adventure takes place not in the main game, but on a separate island that is more Donkey Kong themed than Mario themed. And this opening cutscene is kind of explaining how we get there. Now, what makes this speedrun so much more streamlined and enjoyable than the main story speedrun? Well, the first thing is that it is about 30% of the game, or the time length. It's an hour and a half as opposed to about a 6-hour run. There's only 18 stages instead of 38. You have a set 3 characters instead of 8 characters to choose from, which makes routing easier because you don't have to test out multiple characters. And there's also even more movement and damage options in the DLC than there were originally in the main game. So you're going to see all of that here. So once we get out of this cutscene, we're going to be able to quit the main menu in order to skip the next one after this loading screen. And once we get back in, we're going to get into our first just regular old battle. It's called a defeat all battle. We defeat all the enemies on the battlefield. We're only going to use the 2 new characters, Donkey Kong and Rabbid Cranky. We don't need to use Rabbid Peach at all. And it's also going to be our introduction to one of the main sources of damage that we do throughout the run, the double grump jump combo. So, new to the DLC, Donkey Kong can pick up his teammates, which counts as basically a second way to do a team jump. And Rabbid Cranky, similar to Yoshi in the main game, has the ability to deal damage when landing from a team jump. So that's the grump jump combo that we're talking about, the double grump jump. Deals a lot of damage. Now Donkey Kong is going to go ahead and do a ground pound. And that's the first battle. Right off the bat. So now that we've finished the first battle, we've unlocked the ability to buy new weapons and also allocate skill points. Weapons are unlocked at the end of every single world, and skill points are given out at the end of every battle. Now, we don't need to actually allocate any skill points for this next battle, but we are going to buy a weapon. We're going to buy a primary weapon for DK, which is his banana meringue, which is a boomerang that bounces between a couple different enemies. Now, this next battle that we're doing is a collector battle. So this is unique to the DLC. The opening cutscene was kind of showing that the washing machine, interdimensional space jumper, time machine that the Rabbids use, which is canon to the Rabbids TV show, crash landed on this island. When it crash landed, it broke apart. So we need to collect parts of the washing machine in order to repair it and allow Rabbid Peach to go back to the Mario universe. So these collector battles, we have to defeat specific enemies called collectors, who are holding parts of the washing machine. Now what makes this interesting is that collectors have full range of motion on the map on their turn, and also when they get attacked. And I'll show you what I mean by that as soon as we get back into this battle. That's one of the collectors right there. So, as you can see around me, we have this blue and now yellow area on the map. That's our range. So, our movement range can get extended by things like dandelion jumps and pipes and things like that. And you can also do team jumps. But there's a specific range that you have to fit in. Collectors can move the entire map. So, in order to make sure that they stay where we want them to stay, we have to get kind of creative with how we keep them in place. Another thing about collectors is they can move the entire length of the map whenever they get hit by weapon damage. Now, dashes and grump jumps are not weapon damage. What we did just there is we used one of Rabbid Cranky's abilities, Long Story, which puts enemies to sleep. When enemies are asleep, they can't move and they can't attack. So that keeps the collectors right where we want them. So now we're going to go ahead and dash this other collector, and back in between them. That's going to break the cover to give Donkey Kong all the line of sight that he needs. Now, I mentioned earlier that Donkey Kong can pick up teammates. He can also pick up cover blocks. And there are some cover blocks, like this one right here, this honey block, that provide a special effect. So, honey blocks will stick the enemy and they can't move. Now we're going to do a ability called Hairy Eye. It's kind of like Overwatch if you're familiar with XCOM. It allows you to hit enemies that are moving. And we actually got really lucky there. We didn't want to get a crit because a crit changes where these two washing machine parts fall, and we wouldn't be able to collect both of them on this turn. We'd have to wait another turn to get one of the pieces with Rabbid Peach. So we actually got really lucky there in that this battle will finish on turn 2. So the general strategy that we're going to have for all the collector battles is do as much damage with non-weapon damage as possible, and then finally finish enemies off with weapon damage. So now we get to buy weapons and also allocate some skill points. I'm looking at notes because there is no way that I could memorize all of the little differences in what skill points we grab in every battle. Alright, so this next battle can change a lot with RNG. It's another one of the defeat all the enemies on the battlefield battles. I should kind of mention how the RNG in this game works. So we can affect where enemies move because that's entirely based on our player position, but we don't have the ability to affect damage RNG or crit RNG, or in the case of a 50-50 shot, hit RNG. Unfortunately, we don't know how to do that yet. So if you really want to help out the Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle speedrunning community, figure out a way to manipulate damage and crit rolls. We would greatly appreciate it. But because we don't have the ability to manipulate these things, a lot of our routing is based off of minimum damage. So the idea of making sure that we are always dealing, no matter what crit or damage rolls we have, enough to kill the enemies that we want to kill. This is one of those fights where we just can't guarantee that on this turn, but we can guarantee that we'll finish everybody off on the next turn. So just doing another double grump jump combo here. This is the first time that we see Donkey Kong's magnet groove. He just busts out the DK bongos and plays a nice beat and everybody comes running. We're hoping to not get a crit here. And we don't get the crit, which is good. So these enemies right here, these smashers, can retaliate whenever they get hit, and their attacks do area of effect, so they actually just dealt damage to each other to finish each other off. Now, if we're lucky, we get a crit here, but unfortunately we do not. Crit would have finished off that enemy, but instead we're just going to need to put him to sleep so he doesn't move for next turn. Rabbid Peach is going to go ahead and finish him off at the beginning of next turn. And now finishing off that last enemy, all it's going to take is a Grump Jump, and if we're lucky, we get a crit and finish the enemy off that way. If we don't get a crit, we can finish him off with a dash. So no crit, so we're just going to need to go ahead and do the dash to finish this enemy off. We almost misclicked and went right by him. If that was the case, we could have finished him off with DK. It just would have been a little bit slower. So now that we've finished 1-3, we're going to have the ability to quit to the atoll, which is like the hub area, in order to skip cutscenes, which is really nice because it's way faster than quitting to the main menu. So this next battle that we've got coming up after we buy a weapon and get some skills is a bad banana battle. I'll talk about that in just a second. So, bad banana battles are also unique to the DKA DLC. So instead of attacking enemies on the battlefield, we're attacking certain points. Story-wise, what's going on is that the main antagonist of the main game, or at least antagonistic force, the Megabug virus, has come into the Donkey Kong universe as well through the washing machine, and has infected Rabbid Kong and also his stash of bananas. So these piles of bad bananas have the Megabug virus in them, and we need to get rid of them. So this battle, we're only going to be using Donkey Kong and Rabbid Cranky. We only need to do 2 Grump Jumps, a Bananarang, and a Shotgun. We can actually cut one of those Grump Jumps if we get good damage rolls, and we'll always finish this on in 3 turns. The only thing that speeds this section up is whether or not we get those good damage rolls and get to skip the second Grump Jump. So that's 1 Grump Jump, banana. We got a crit, that's nice. Can we get another one? Yeah, there we go. So we didn't have to do the second Grump Jump there. You'll notice me spinning my camera around a lot in between animations or on the enemy turn. That's because the way that you select targets is you have to select specifically left or right when you're like aiming with a weapon. So changing the camera angle can actually reduce the amount of inputs that you have to do, which saves a little bit of time. Those blue platforms that I'm going off of that have the DK on them are Dandelion Jumps. Only DK can use them, that's why they got his name on it. And it's another thing that's obviously unique to the DKA DLC. So unfortunately we didn't get good damage rolls on that one, we had to use the second Grump Jump. So we've got 1 more to go. And that's 1-4. So this next battle is the only reach area battle in the run. There's plenty more of them in the main story, but this is the only pure reach area that we do in the DLC. Rather than trying to fight enemies, all we have to do is reach a specific area on the battlefield. We're only going to be using Donkey Kong and Rabbid Peach, and this battle really shows off why movement skills are so important in MRKB and the DLC. So every battle has a par, basically how many turns they think you're going to be able to beat the battle in. This battle has 7. We're going to beat it in 1. So the reason why it's got such a high par is because they expect us to get hit by some of these honey-filled coconuts that the seagulls are dropping, but they only drop them in between our turn and the enemy turn. So if we can finish it before that happens, we have nothing to worry about. All we have to do is one dandelion jump, one trip through a pipe, tossing Rabbid Peach, and then Rabbid Peach has just enough to go through the pipe and get to the area. And again, this is only because we prioritize movement skills over weapon skills. Movement's OP in this game. I love to see that. Turns 1 in 7. Alright, so after we allocate some skill points here, we're going to be in our first boss. First we got to do a puzzle. It's a tower puzzle. We got to rotate the pieces of the tower to match some criteria, and it'll cause some torches to light up, and when all the torches are lit up, it'll open a door. And I wish I could pretend that I'm just really fast at doing this type of puzzle on the fly, but no, it's the same every time, and you just have to memorize the pattern. That would be really impressive, though. Bit of a flub there. And if we were doing 100%, well, we already would have missed a lot of collectibles that we needed to get, but we would be doing the exact same puzzle except trying to make all of the torches go out, and that would get us one of the really powerful golden weapons. Unfortunately, it just takes a little too long to get them for the any % speedrun. Alright, so restart the battle to skip this cutscene, and we are on to the first boss, Side-Eye. So Side-Eye, like the collectors, will be able to move anywhere on the map as soon as he takes weapon damage, so we're going to deal as much damage as possible on this first turn with just Donkey Kong and Rabbid Cranky without doing weapon damage. Alright, we're hoping to get a crit here. Unfortunately, we do not. So that means that we're not guaranteed to be able to finish off Side-Eye next turn with just DK and Rabbid Cranky. We might need to use Rabbid Peach as well if we have low damage rolls. That's a little unfortunate, but we'll make it work. Same deal, just gotta do a grump jump combo here, or a double grump jump combo, and then one shotgun blast to the face, hopefully. I don't even know what happened there. Oh, nice, we got it. So that's boss 1. I guess I should probably mention what that key is. So, during one of the many cutscenes that we skipped, it showed off a big door at the atoll that has 2 keyholes in it. So we need to collect the 2 keys from the 2 bosses or mid-bosses, Side-Eye, and the next one that we're going to meet, Finn. But for right now, we've got weapons to buy, and we've got skills to allocate. We'll just need to quit to the atoll once this loading screen is done, and then jump back in to skip a cutscene. So this next battle is our first defeat a number battle. Basically what that means is instead of defeating all the enemies on the battlefield, we have to defeat a set number of enemies. Not all of them will have spawned in on turn 1, so they'll periodically spawn in over the next few turns. These used to be really annoying in the main game, but it's a lot faster and a lot easier in the DLC because Donkey Kong has a skill that we just got that allows him to basically cause enemies to spawn a turn early. I'll explain what's going on when that actually happens. Having a little bit of trouble with the snap to feature. Basically, our cursor can move obviously anywhere on the screen, but it has to snap to the grid, and sometimes it doesn't know what it wants. Or it tries to guess what we want and fails miserably. So, depending on RNG, we can either finish off all of the enemies that are currently spawned, or all but one. So fingers crossed we can finish off all of them, because that saves a lot of time. Just need to do an area and then an attack. The one in crits on both of these. That's 1. And that's 2. Awesome. So that means that this enemy should be finished off. Yep. Excellent. So, finished off all the enemies that were spawned in that turn. So, normally we'd have to wait 2 turns for these next enemies to spawn in, but these ears that are indicating where these enemies are going to spawn, DK can actually pull them out by the ears and cause them to spawn a turn early. We've got really good RNG, so I'm going to take a bit of a gamble. See if we can get better. I'll just go ahead and go for a shot here. We're hoping for a crit. Unfortunately didn't get it, so we're going to be wasting a little bit of time here. If we had gotten the crit, that would have been perfect RNG for this fight. Still a pretty decent fight, all things considered. So coming up next is the first smuggler battle. Talk about that in a second. There we go. So smuggler battles are kind of like the reverse of the reach area battle that we did earlier with Donkey Kong and Rabbid Peach, where instead of us trying to reach a certain spot on the battlefield, we're trying to stop the enemies or specific enemies from reaching their own designated area of the battlefield. And so those enemies are called smugglers, and we gotta stop them because they are trying to move some of those bad bananas. So this fight has some real problems with the snap tube. So misclicking is very easy on this one. Hoping to get 2 crits here. And just need 1 more from Rabbid Peach. Awesome, we got it. So I should mention that we have Rabbid Peach in a very specific spot. So when Rabbid Cranky does his grump jump right here, it's actually going to also hit Rabbid Peach with the freeze effect. So freeze means that you're not able to use abilities, and so because the only thing left that we could have done after all of this is use an ability with Peach, it just skips right over us and goes straight to the enemy turn, which saves a little bit of animation time. So 2 smugglers down, 2 to go. Now, a thing that used to be really annoying is it used to be that when Donkey Kong went to grab Rabbid Cranky on the route, he would jump up onto this platform that he's running by and then jump back down, which was super slow. And luckily, when they patched out some other bugs with the DLC, they fixed that, much to the delight of all the people who speedrun this game. So after we finish this enemy off, we're hoping for a crit with Donkey Kong. We've had pretty decent RNG so far on this fight, but this crit with Donkey Kong really matters. And unfortunately, we just did not get it. Hopefully we don't get bounced. And we got bounced, so that's a waste of time, basically. Alright, well, we had pretty decent RNG up until that point. This could have potentially been a gold split up until that point, but now there's definitely no way. Just because without that crit, we also need to take a shot at this enemy instead of just dashing him. It's just going to be slower all around. So this next battle I'm very, very proud of, because this is the next collector battle, and for the longest time we could not figure out how to do this next battle in 2 turns. The only way that we knew how to do it was in 3 turns, and not for lack of trying. We were absolutely trying to get this battle down to 2 turns. And it wasn't until my D-Rust practice for these submission videos that I actually was finally able to figure out a way to do it in 2 turns. And it's not like I just had some, like, epiphany that, and I'm so much smarter than all the other people who have routed and run this game. It's built off of all of the other little improvements that we had to save a little bit of time on the 3-turn route, that we were just able to make a minor adjustment to make it a 2-turn round. It actually doesn't save as much time as you would think by cutting off a complete turn, just because we have to do a couple more actions per turn, but it does end up saving about 5 to 10 seconds, so that's worth something. So again, because this is a collector battle, we're going to try and deal as much damage as possible with non-weapon damage first, so we get that first collector with a Grump Jump, and then we're able to finish him off with one of Rabbids Peach's sentries. Now it's a little bit faster if we get a crit here, but it's not detrimental if we don't get one. Don't get one, but like I said, that's okay. Rabbid Cranky's going to dash this one and then put him to sleep. So we're going to be able to incapacitate either by killing or putting to sleep 2 of the 3 collectors. And that's okay, because we actually want the third one to run around, because we want him to run into range of Donkey Kong to knock some of his health off. So a crit would be great here, but it's not required. That's alright. Just saves a little bit of time with animations. So bucklers have the ability to shield their teammates and basically share health with them. So we have to get a crit here to guarantee that we finish this enemy off. And we do, so we're good there. Now here's the key part that makes this a 2-turn battle. So, Donkey Kong's going to first grab this part, or else we'd have to grab it later. We're going to pick up the bounce block, go to that specific tile, and toss it to that specific tile, and that's going to bounce this collector in a specific direction. Now it's that specific combination plus the weapon range skill that we grabbed earlier that allowed us to bounce the collector in that direction, which would make the part land in that direction, which would put it exactly where we needed it to be for Rabbid Cranky to grab it right there. And that is Filch Fragments in 2 turns. I know that doesn't really mean anything except to fans of the game and speedrun, but yeah, it's real nice. I'm really glad to be able to show that off in the submission video. So now we have the second mid-boss, Finn. But first, another puzzle. So this is supposed to be kind of like a, I guess like a Simon Says or Repeat After Me kind of musical thing. By the way, can't believe I haven't mentioned this yet. The soundtrack for this game is composed by the legendary Grant Kirkhope. So if it sounds Kirkhopian in any way, that's because it is. But one of the things about this puzzle that's kind of like a Simon Says or whatever, so you don't actually have to hit the button to have it tell you what notes to play, so you can just have it memorized. Like so. And it's been a while since I've taken music theory, but I'm pretty sure this is a pentatonic scale, and so the first half, or the third part, is just the first 2 parts combined up a step on, I believe, a pentatonic scale. That doesn't mean anything other than, it doesn't mean anything to anybody other than music nerds, but, and I could be completely wrong. I just wanted to mention it. So, back on speedrunning. We've got the second boss battle coming up. This one can go kind of wrong based on RNG. The fight's gotten slowly more consistent over the years, but, or not over the years, because this has only been out for a little over a year at this point. But over time. But it's still not very fun. If you have done this game in your own time, done the DLC, this fight is going to look probably really different from how you played it out. And again, that can probably be said for almost everything in this run. But this fight in particular. So Finn, kind of like a smasher, will run towards you after receiving weapon damage. So I need to take Rabbid Cranky, toss him over here. Use the Bomb and Ramen, which, by the way, one of the best weapon names in the DLC. You get bounced back. Ugh, excuse me. But we have just enough range to team jump off of DK and also get a dash in. And the position where we land is just in range to put both him and the buckler to sleep. We definitely want to put that buckler to sleep because otherwise that buckler has the ability to shield Finn. So we got hit with a bounce by DK. That's not detrimental, but it is a little bit annoying. Just makes the movement on turn 2 a little bit weird. We'll do a dash with Rabbid Peach. Dash with Rabbid Cranky. Team jump off of DK, which is just barely in range. Right there. And so DK can still do all the things that he needs to do. It's just you have muscle memory on these fights, and it messes with your muscle memory. When DK gets bounced. So I'm taking a bit of a gamble here by doing the Harry Eye. If we had gotten the crit, that would have been able to finish Finn off right there. But instead, I can't do anything because when he does his charging attack, he actually is shielded and can't take damage. So that ended up being nothing but a waste of time, unfortunately. And if the angle was slightly different, Rabbid Peach could have bounced Finn out of bounds, which would have finished him off. So this is... We had decent RNG at this first half, but the second half of this battle was not super great. So that's 2 keys, which is going to open the door to Chapter 3. So after that fight that can go just ridiculously wrong with various types of RNG, the devs at Ubisoft gave us a bit of a palate cleanser in this next battle, which is 100% consistent all the time, no matter what kind of RNG you get. And it's fantastic, and I love it. As long as you don't mess up, everything's fine. So again, we're just going to need to quit to the atoll. We are on our way to 3-1. So this battle is our only defeat summoners or defeat specific enemy type battle in the DLC. Summoners are new to the DLC, kind of based off of the supporters of the main game, except rather than having the ability to heal their teammates, they can spawn new ones after 2 turns. So we're going to be able to finish off 3 of the 4 in the first 2 turns, and the whole thing that makes this fight so nice is that we can set it up so that the hopper that the final summoner spawns cannot hit us, and so we don't have anything to worry about. Like I said, this fight is 100% consistent, and I love it. Oh, that's 2 down, 2 to go. Oh yeah, the other thing that is supposed to make this fight more difficult is that the seagulls are dropping oil-covered coconuts this time instead of honey-covered ones. So, or ink rather than oil. And ink means that you can't attack. You can't do a weapon attack. But the places where we place Rabbid Cranky for the rest of the fight aren't affected, and we don't need to do any damage with DK, so it works out alright. So yeah, like I said, with where we place DK and Rabbid Cranky, this hopper that spawns right there can't do anything. It's fantastic. Excuse me. As soon as this animation is done, we'll be done with 3-1. So, this next battle, Kidnapped Components, is the final collector battle. And it's another one of those very clean and consistent fights. I should make a slight correction. I wouldn't say that the fight is consistent, it's manageable. First turn almost always ends up the same way, or at least you finish off enemies in an expected way, but based off of crit RNG, things like that, the place where the washing machine parts fall can be pretty different. And so you can, a lot of times you need to adjust where you move to collect the parts. Like, for example, with that push crit, it puts the washing machine part further away than it would otherwise be. Another one of these double grump jump combos. We're doing this to get the health of these collectors within range so that when DK does a magnet groove ground pound combo, it's all guaranteed kills. Again, same deal of trying to finish enemies off with weapon damage, but doing non-weapon damage first. Not the best placement of washing machine parts, but they're all going to be collectible on turn 2, so we've at least got that. This works really well, yep, if Rabbid Peach does not get crit there, because that means that Donkey Kong doesn't have to pick her up in order to get rid of the honey effect, and so she's able to just go ahead and move on her own, which means that we save a little bit of time with animation of DK walking. And that's the final collector battle. So up next is the second and final smuggler fight. And these smuggler fights are they're really interesting. This one in particular is interesting because every person who's completed a full run of this DLC has a different route for this fight. And they're all pretty similar. So Tyan's route is probably the most consistent, but it's a little bit slower. My route is a little bit less consistent, but it has the potential to be faster. And then Hilda's route is the most inconsistent, but also has the best chance of being fast. So my route is a little bit in between the middle of the two. But they're all, like, comparable speeds. Like, it's not detrimental to do one over the other necessarily. That's one of the cool things about this game, is that routing is so unique. And I guess that's the case for any tactics game or any tactical shooter, is that there's so many different ways to route, and a lot of them can be viable for the speedrun. Very rarely is it the case where there's one correct answer. So perfect RNG in this fight is Rabbid Peach getting a crit here and Rabbid Cranky not getting a crit. And that's perfect RNG, so hopefully that happens. Ah, man. Unfortunately, we did not get the crit there, so we're going to waste some time. All in all, not getting the crit there costs about 12 seconds over the course of the run, or over the course of the battle. And hopefully we at least get the crit with Rabbid Cranky here. Because the crit is ink damage, and we want these enemies to, these smashers to all damage each other. Which they are going to do, because we didn't get the crit, so that's good. Alright, so we just need to finish off that last enemy with a dash and a blaster attack from Rabbid Peach, and that should be good. Let dash. I'll wait just a second to make sure it's actually aiming at the right target. And we're good. So that is the second and final smuggler fight, and now we're on the second and final bad banana battle. So this fight is interesting. It's consistently going to end on turn 3 as long as you don't mess up, but what changes the fight is damage and crit rolls, because the enemies end up doing a lot of the work for you, but if you get higher crit rolls or damage rolls, you end up cutting down on a lot of the enemy animations, which are what take up the most amount of time in this fight, is enemy animations. So there's no situation where we don't want to crit in this fight, so just flat out crits all around is the best option. Which I think I've only gotten twice running this category. Kind of forgot what I was doing there. Alright, we did get a crit. That crit is pretty crucial, so I'm glad we got that. Now we put these 3 to sleep. Donkey Kong is going to grab Rabbid Peach, move over to this corner. I want to crit with Rabbid Peach here. Ah, that's unfortunate. So with that crit with Rabbid Peach, or not getting the crit with Rabbid Peach, means that we have to have the Smasher finish off that bad banana pile. But, like I said, the Smashers are going to do a lot of the work for us. It's really nice. So, even a crit here is actually bad if we don't get the first crit, because we waste so much animation time like that. Go over here. Unfortunately, no crit there either. DK is going to pick up this Smasher, bring him all the way over here, and throw him on this pile to deal 70 damage. Which is a little under half of the pile's health, I think. Yep. And so even with the crit here, we can't finish it off. It's going to have 8 health left, so we're going to put on the Hairy Eye. Banana Ring is actually going to bounce back. Perfect. It's unfortunate. Everybody had really good RNG except for Rabbid Peach had the worst RNG. That's unfortunate. Now DK is going to pick up this enemy, throw him on the pile, and that will be the end of the fight. Alright, so now we are on to fighting Rabbid Kong. this fight is, it's a lot of fun. I think my 3 favorite fights are the fight we just did, this fight coming up, and, spoiler alert, the final boss. Because as much as they set you up to think that this is the final boss area right here, spoiler alert, it's not. We got 4 chapters, not just 3. This fight is really interesting because it's based on the route of one of the runners, Tyann, found a way to basically consistently deal double damage the entire fight right when we were starting out. And, like, it wasn't a super difficult thing to discover. Tyann was just on top of things very early when this DLC first came out. But we still like to credit him with the discovery. So, basically, as soon as this loads in so I can kind of show you and explain it, there's this pool of water that's infected with the Megabug virus and also Rabbid Kong. So we actually don't care about Rabbid Kong, we care about getting the health pool of the pool of water down to 0. But dealing damage to Rabbid Kong also deals damage to the pool. So, basically the idea is that we want to deal damage to Rabbid Kong and the pool at the same time as much as possible. And the thing that makes this fight really fun is that, as we'll see in a moment, there are TNT barrels that deal 500 damage. So, those of you who are good at math, 500 times 2 is 1,000 damage with 1 barrel throw. And oh, is it nice. There we go, 500, 500, that's 1,000. 1 throw of the banana ring to bring it down underneath 1,500. Now for one of these barrels, it's not going to be able to hit Rabbid Kong and the pool at the same time, but we are going to be able to get it for this next one coming up. So all in all, we're going to be able to deal exactly the 1,500 damage that we need. So, a little bit of a... There we go. Bit of a weird position for Rabbid Kong to be in. But we made it work. It's okay for Rabbid Peach to get knocked out there. In fact, it's basically expected. And with this final barrel throw, we're on to the final chapter. So because normally we skip cutscenes, there have been multiple times where I've been on good pace runs and accidentally tried to skip this cutscene, but if you try and skip that cutscene, you have to do the battle over again, because you're still technically in the battle. So if for whatever reason I get nervous and I flub that during GDQ, I don't know. I'll probably donate at least 100, maybe more, to flubbing that. Right. And now on our way to the final chapter. Finally in it. We're going to buy all but one of the weapons that we're going to need for the final boss fight. Allocate some skills. Now we're on our way to 4-1. So this battle is it's a little interesting. All of the main battles in Chapter 4, as in not the boss battles, are going to pretty heavily rely on the Magnet Groove ground pound combo. This fight we can finish off in one turn because of the Magnet Groove ground pound combo. Now, there is a marathon safe strat here that I could be doing, but I don't feel like it. We could have dashed one of the bucklers that it's possible for him to survive on 1 health if we have really bad RNG later on. But, yeah, took the gamble. So now, hopefully we get the... Yep, we got the crit. I'm actually not sure anymore if it's faster to get the crit here or not. So now we just need to dash these last 2 enemies, and then we don't really care if about being in the blast zone, so we're just going to go ahead and do a sentry to finish this enemy off, because bucklers have those shields and we can't shoot them head on, so the only way that we can deal damage to them right now is with the sentry. And yep, the gamble paid off. We finished the fight in 1 turn. So now we've got the second and final defeat a number battle going on. And we also got the last weapon that we need. For the final boss. So basically, the idea of this fight in particular is just use the pipes to your advantage. Use Donkey Kong's Ear Uprooter ability that allows enemies to spawn early. And also use the Magnet Groove combo to finish off all the enemies in turn 1. And even without the crit there, we still finish them all off turn 1, which is really nice. Because you don't have to worry about them doing attacks that mess us up later. Also, we haven't really talked about burn crits, but they're kind of the worst thing ever. Actually, wait, I'm supposed to be doing DK right now. My bad. So, these fire burpees hit anything within that line of their attack and hit them with a fire crit. Fire crits are probably the worst things of RNG in the game because not only do they make you move a random number of spaces, they make you move in a random direction for a random amount of time. So it is possible... Oh, the other thing is that getting hit with a burn crit, if one character or enemy touches another enemy, it spreads the fire, the burn crit along, and it can be reapplied. So you can actually get into a loop where two characters will over and over and over hit each other with a burn crit, and they'll just keep moving. The longest burn crit chain I've seen was in the main game, actually, and was for about a little over a minute and a half, I think. So burn crits are very bad, so we want to try and avoid them as much as possible, which is why, spoiler, this next battle after this one is going to be terrifying. This battle, though, is pretty consistent turns 1 and 2. It's basically just the RNG of that attack that just happened with DK getting a crit or not that makes turns 3 and 4 a little bit weird. So far, so good. We just have one summoner to finish off. And the only thing that we're hoping is that we don't get hit with the push crit too bad. Because we expected to get hit with that push crit. But nope, that all worked out pretty well. So now we just need to finish off one summoner. And we are on as soon as we shoot this guy. We are on to the second to last battle, which is absolutely a run killer. It's one of the things that makes this run a little bit frustrating to do, not gonna lie. So, remember what I said, burn crits are bad and terrible and we don't like them? There's a really big chance for burn crit to really mess us up in this fight. So, basically, if we don't get a crit with DK, there are enemies that will be still alive when the fire idol attacks DK, which means that he can bump into them, and then they can bump back into him, or he can bump into them, they can bump back into him, and do burn crit chains that mess up the entire plan that we have. So if we get a crit, all of the enemies die and it's fine. But if we don't get a crit, we can lose. The most time that I've seen lost is 2 minutes, I think? That sounds about right. So obviously we don't want that. So we are hoping, praying for a crit with DK. I'm pretty sure this Magnet Groove animation is the longest one we have to sit through in the entire run. And you'd think that it wastes, man, this just wastes so much time. And it does waste a lot of time just watching them waltz over to this area, but being able to attack all of them at once makes up all that time. And we got the crit, so we're good. Now we have nothing to worry about. Dash this enemy, dash this other enemy, dash a third enemy, and we shoot the last one in the face. And it'll finish all of them off. Finally, we've got Rabid Cranky dashing this enemy, then hitting him with the grenade. The Pandemonium, as it's called. It's called Pandemonium, but it's got more of a cow pattern. I don't get that. Put this enemy to sleep. Sorry. Since that hopper is asleep, it won't be able to shield for this next turn, so we can finish him off, no problem. And all it takes is a dash and a shotgun blast. I guess it's a crossbow. Yeah, it's a crossbow. Never mind. It's like a shotgun crossbow. It's got spread. I don't know. So, now we've got to prepare for the final boss. There, we've prepared for the final boss. So this fight happens in 3 phases. There's the first phase, which is get Rabid Kong's health down to 0. A second phase, which is step on 3 specific reach area platforms, pressure plates, and the pressure plates unlock the locks on the final golden barrel, and then the final step is to get one team member into the reach area for the golden barrel. So right now we're just trying to deal as much damage to Rabid Kong as possible, but we also want to be finishing off this enemy on the left here. Okay, that crit was essential. We need that buckler on the left to be inked. Because if he's not, he has the ability to do a honey crit on Rabid Peach, which absolutely we cannot let that happen. So the only thing that can make this fight scary is Rabid Cranky not getting that ink crit there, but he did, so we don't have anything to worry about. Other than that, though, we've been getting pretty low damage rolls, unfortunately. So this could get a little close with finishing off, because we want to finish Rabid Kong off by the end of turn 2. dash this enemy here, then go all the way back over here. So that's a little slow, but we're fine. Take a shot at Rabbid Kong. Rabbid Cranky's gonna do Grump Jump. One more Grump Jump. Because it's not guaranteed that we can finish this off with just the banana ring. So that was slow. We had to use every attack there, which normally you don't need to do. It's a little unfortunate, but yeah, it happens. So, now we need to activate these pressure plates in a very specific order. Oh, forgot to fast forward there. So, DK is going to pick up Rabbid Cranky, go all the way to the east, and throw Rabbid Cranky as north as possible. Rabbid Cranky is going to move over to that north pressure plate, which is going to get Rabbid Kong to be up in the north section, and he's going to bounce Rabbid Cranky northwest. That means that when Rabbid Peach goes onto the south pressure plate and Rabbid Kong attacks her, she's going to get bounced to the southwest, which is what we wanted. Finally, we swap it back to DK. DK gets pushed towards the east pressure plate. DK steps on the east pressure plate, and now the reach area is activated. So I'll let y'all in on a little secret, which is that we're not actually going to finish this fight ourselves. Rabbid Kong's actually going to finish it for us. Well, I take that back. That's assuming that we don't get crit by a summoner here. But basically, Rabbid Kong's push attack is going to push us into the goal, most likely. Honestly, I can have it do that either way, so I'll just set it up to do that because I think it looks cool. Oh, that's weird. We didn't actually get attacked by one of those summoners. Alright, so yeah, definitely. Rabbid Kong is going to push us into the reach area, which is going to be time. And time. And that is Mario Rabbids Kingdom Battle. So, most of this run is going to be post-commentated, but I just wanted to jump on really quick and show why I'm excited. This is a 10-second world record. So hi there. You've been hearing me post-commentate up until this point, but yeah. what a great submission video! I got world record off of it. So yeah, obviously this is a great game. I really enjoy it, and I'd love to see it get into a GDQ. So yeah, I guess I'll just say thank you for your consideration. Thanks to everybody who works on Games Done Quick, because it's such an amazing charity, and especially for Awesome Games Done Quick, because it benefits the Prevent Cancer Foundation, which, for those of you who aren't familiar, I had a birthmark that had a high chance of turning cancerous when I was a baby. Because of the kind of work that the Prevent Cancer Foundation does, like, I knew going into puberty when it was likely that it would turn cancerous, what it was, and I was able to get it removed. I don't have a cancer story because I knew somebody who knew that it was an issue and let us know. That's what the Prevent Cancer Foundation does. Obviously, they do outreach and awareness about potential risks for cancers, because just as important as it is that we do cancer research to help people who already have it, it's even more important to make sure that people never get it in the first place. So obviously, the Prevent Cancer Foundation is super near and dear to my heart, and if I could have the opportunity to run at another AGDQ and support such a fantastic cause, obviously that would mean the world to me. So yeah, world record in the submission video. I'm gonna actually go do the post commentary right now. I just wanted to stop in and say hi because wow. Yeah. Thanks for watching. Thank you for your consideration. See ya.